und einer, der hauptsächlich im Stahlgeschäft, Maschinengeschäft etc.
In today's video, we're going to talk about Otto Johann Anton Skorzeny, an Austrian-born German SS Obersturmbannführer, lieutenant colonel in the Waffen-SS during the Second World War, and his amazing undertakings. Fasten your seatbelts, here we go. Skorzeny's life full of ups and downs. During the war, Skorzeny was given the responsibility of leading important operations, including removing Hungarian regent Miklos Horthy from power, and the Gran Sasso raid, which rescued Benito Mussolini from captivity. One of the most famous missions under his leadership was the famous Operation Grief, which involved German soldiers disguised as their opponents. For his wrongdoings, he was charged in 1947 at the Dachau Military Tribunal with breaching the 1907 Hague Convention, but was acquitted of all the charges afterwards. He is also known for escaping the internment camp in 1948, hiding all over Europe in Bavarian farms, Salzburg, Paris, and lastly, Franco's Spain. There is a famous saying, "Through the horns to the stars," and it perfectly describes Skorzeny's life, since after the worst years of his life, including trials and captivity, he became a military advisor to the Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser. Allegedly, he was also an unofficial advisor of the Argentinian president Juan Perón. There are some scandals regarding that, so stay until the end to find out. Additionally, he was working for Mossad in 1963 and was involved in many operations of that agency, but these pieces of information are not verified. He lost his life due to lung cancer in 1975. So, let's learn more about Skorzeny and his capabilities. Skorzeny's characteristics. Judging by all the demanding missions that were entrusted to Otto Skorzeny, you get the idea of his significance to Hitler and Nazi Germany.
Du, meine Arbeit, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Thanks to his enviable leadership skills as well as organizational capabilities, his missions were mainly successful, and he's widely regarded as the most effective Nazi Special Forces commando. Did you know that even his allies called him Scarface and considered him the most dangerous man in Europe? Well, Scarface was due to the big scar on his face from when he was a fencer and a duelist, but he earned other nicknames by deeds rather than facial features. His family had a long history of military service, so what else could be expected from Skorzeny? He incorporated extreme right-wing political views very early, by age of 14. Combine that with military service, and you get the ideal Nazi member. His physical appearance was in strong correlation with his nickname, and if you try to think of the most dangerous man in Europe, Otto Skorzeny's look might perfectly fit that description. He was a very tall man, standing 6'4" or 193 centimeters, and was very corpulent as well. By the year 1931, he had joined the Austrian Nazi Party, Nazi SA, and afterwards the SS. He proved himself by directing the destruction of 2 synagogues in Vienna and the number of brutal attacks on the Jews. Who would have supposed that his physical characteristics will be the one to stop him from making his dream come true and joining the Luftwaffe? Life took him on another path, as he later joined Hitler's security, the LSSAH, instead. Skorzeny's rise. Skorzeny was injured in the head in December 1942, and while it seems that was one of the worst things that ever happened to him, it was completely the other way around. During his recovery in Berlin, his ideas of the special force and unconventional warfare started to emerge, marking a turning point in his life and career. So let's see how his rise began. Otto and Ernst Kaltenbrunner had been friends for a very long time, and Otto was lucky to have him by his side, since Ernst eventually took over RSHA, Reich Main Security Office, as soon as Richard Heinrich lost his life in 1942. Kaltenbrunner later started implementing Skorzeny's ideas and even promoted his friend 3 months after taking over the unit. Skorzeny became the commander of the new unit called VIS, responsible for training elite soldiers for all kinds of military operations. RSHA was a central intelligence agency under the control of Heinrich Himmler, and it monitored the work of all security and police forces in Germany, and was in direct contact with Hitler. That was Skorzeny's huge chance that he couldn't miss. Thanks to his characteristics, capabilities, loyalty, and agitation mixed with the chance, he gained recognition by serving in such a tenue. He rapidly caught the eye of Hitler. Not only that, but he briefly became one of Hitler's favorite and most trusted people. Panzer Brigade 150. Hitler asked Skorzeny to form a Panzer Brigade 150, a special unit that would be placed in captured Allied tanks to confuse Americans, upset their communications, and lastly take over one or more bridges over the Meuse River before they can be destroyed. Even though the mission was very dangerous and Skorzeny was reluctant at first, he accepted it. He received 2,500 soldiers from all parts of the armed forces, including Heer, Luftwaffe, Kriegsmarine, and the Waffen-SS. It was necessary to provide people with proficient English skills and an American accent, as well as lots of American uniforms, vehicles, and weapons for adequate disguise and to effectively complete the mission. On the other hand, not everything went as expected, as there were many organizational problems. Nobody knew what American uniforms really looked like, meaning that many Polish and Russian uniforms made up the unit. Additionally, there weren't enough American tanks for the mission, so the brigade used disguised German tanks instead. Many of the soldiers had moderate English skills at best, but they were provided fake papers and documentation to seem more credible. You would never have expected German command to start the mission so recklessly, so let's see how it turned out. Operation Grief. Einheit Stilu was the small unit within the brigade consisting of the soldiers who spoke the best English, and their responsibility was to cause confusion and miscommunication. Some unbelievable events occurred as German and US jeeps and uniforms started changing signposts, giving the wrong directions, spreading false stories, completely disrupting the traffic, and misguiding American troops. Some events were rather hilarious, such as when the Germans managed to guide an entire American regiment consisting of about 1,500 personnel in completely the wrong direction. Although the mission had the aforementioned mild organizational problems, it caused vast confusion among Americans. For example, Skorzeny purposely allowed Americans to capture a false document the Germans made that included a plan of capturing American President Eisenhower. That led to Eisenhower spending the whole of Christmas and a few more days in isolation. Additionally, Germans had also made fake documents claiming that Bernard Montgomery's double was sent by Skorzeny, substituting the real one to spy on Americans, leading to Montgomery's arrest and questioning for hours. The operation started slowly, and even though it seemed like a harmless game at the beginning, it rapidly started causing bigger casualties when American soldiers started taking out each other as a result of miscommunication. On the other hand, the Americans' response was strong as they captured and executed most members of the Einheit Stilu, leaving only 8 of them alive. To make things far worse for the Germans, Americans eliminated 3 of their officers, Pernas, Billing, and Schmidt. Operation Grief did cause a lot of trouble among the enemy, but was considered a desperate final attempt and a failure rather than the successful covert operation. Skorzeny after the war. Skorzeny was charged as a war criminal along with the 9 other Panzer Brigade 150 officers at Dachau court, but they were acquitted of all charges due to a technicality and effective law advice provided to Skorzeny. After the trials, he stayed in the internment camp which he managed to escape from in 1948, seeking freedom across Europe until settling in Spain, where he was protected by the Franco regime. 5 years after that, he was selected as the military advisor to the Egyptian president, and he was entrusted with training the Egyptian army. Additionally, there are claims that Skorzeny was an advisor to Argentinian President Juan Perón. Not only that, he was supposedly his wife Eva Perón's bodyguard as well. Some sources even suggest that the 2 of them had an affair. Due to his controversial personality and famous achievements, he had no problem attracting employers. To make his career even more astonishing, some unbelievable stories about him emerged. Allegedly, he was doing some dirty work for Mossad, and he helped Fidel Castro with his memoirs. Did you know that some sources even connect him to the death of Nikola Tesla? This guy was almost everywhere. He's also thought to have run some armies in Congo and India, and he was very close to finding the Holy Grail in France. Skorzeny was charged in the 60s with a few more murders, but was acquitted once again due to lack of evidence. That didn't stop him from advising many Nazi groups across Europe, as well as helping many Nazi war criminals flee Europe. These pieces of information are yet to be verified. Whether they're true or not, they really fit into Skorzeny's personality, and who knows what else is going to come to light about him, as the scheme already started unraveling recently. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and comment on this video. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what we're doing and want us to continue with more cool content. Until the next time.